Good morning and welcome to another edition of the Daily Summation for the Kurt's Religion and Politics channels on Rumble and YouTube. I am Kurt and I am here to talk about, as usual, one of my blog entries today. The blog entry that I'm going to talk about is I wanted to start by saying I've had a sort of a dry spell where it's been difficult for me to get a lot done just with other things that are going on. But the thing that I'm going to talk about today is something I titled Equal Treatment. And one of the things that I wanted to say is that I kind of had a hard time writing the article. And the reason I had a hard time writing the article, to be frank with you, is that I don't like ever coming off as a whiner, as a complainer, as somebody who's talking about how the world is doing them or others wrong. I think it's incumbent on you to make it so that what happens in your world, in your life, is your responsibility as much as possible, and for you to blame and point at other people as little as you possibly can in that process. So I really had a hard time writing this article, right, this piece. And so when I say what I say, you have to know that I'm very deadly serious about what I'm seeing, and that I know that I'm just echoing the sentiment, by the way, of a lot of other people, right? It's not just me who's seeing it. And in fact, it's not even me who's really being severely affected by it. It's truly, honestly, other people who are suffering the effects of those things. Excuse me while I adjust my camera just a little bit. There we go. That's a little better. I'm a little better centered on the screen. Okay, so I have noticed, and I'm sure that a lot of other people have noticed this as well, that the political system in the United States has been, for some time, for a long time, for 8 years, a little more, maybe, I don't know, but certainly for 8 years in the past, and that's been almost 12 years ago that all of this started, has been rather right-leaning in its perspective. And I don't just mean that from a perspective of they've taken the place of, the positions of left-wing policies. I mean to say that there literally have been attacks of certain kinds that have been leveled against people on the right. One example was, and I'm not going to get into details on this, but the whole IRS scandal where 501c3 and similar corporations that were intended to be not-for-profit were essentially not denied, but were not allowed that status, which meant that they were responsible for a good deal more tax burden and so forth than they would have been if they had been able to look at themselves and be treated as nonprofit entities, right? So this is a bit of a problem, not a bit of a problem. It was quite a serious problem to the degree that it probably took a bunch of similar or groups of that sort and made it so that they couldn't operate. They either had to stop operating temporarily or they went away as a result of that happening. And I think you're going to see, if you look, you don't have to look very hard at all, that the news media is doing very similar things, right? They're reporting on things, and when they talk about things that the right-leaning folks say, if they talk about them at all, they talk about them with suspicion at best, and at worst, they're actually literally saying that things that can be shown to be true are lies, and things that can be shown to be lies are true. And this is really, really bad, in my opinion. And if this is not something you should be surprised by. Why not? Well, because unfortunately, what we find out if we do a little bit of digging is that most of these entities that are doing this are owned by left-leaning individuals, right? And their editorial staffs and so forth are stocked and stacked accordingly, right? Now, the same thing, it turns out, applies to social media. And here's the thing, okay? Social media is intended to be platforms. That is to say, it's not supposed to be content providers. They're not supposed to be editorializing. What they're supposed to be doing is acting as a platform for people to speak freely. Now, what's happened in many instances is they've designed these community standards, right? And the community standards in themselves are not necessarily bad things, right? But when you use the community standards to deplatform people on an unequal basis, that's not cool. That's not right. That's not correct. You shouldn't be doing that. And that's what we see happening. There are many instances in which one person who's a politically left-leaning individual will say things, and the things that that individual will say will be obviously incorrect. Any fact checker with any decency at all should be looking at what that individual is saying and going, no, that's wrong, and should be at least putting some sort of warning. Hey, this is wrong, right? It's not happening. That's not happening. On the other hand, for right-leaning individuals, literally I've heard instances where there's one individual who literally quoted somebody. It was like, it's in quotes because it's a quote, right? And that individual was told, that's not true. Wait a second. You can completely go out there and find on the internet where what that individual said is in fact true. And by the way, this is, I've been keeping up on the debates, as lots of people have, and I don't like to let current affairs get too much into my stuff, but one of the things I've noticed is that this is the way things tend to work on the debate stage as well. Somebody says, you said this. No, I didn't. I can literally find you the places on the, in video and text, various places where you did exactly what you're saying you didn't do. How can you possibly support that you're not doing that? Well, unfortunately, as a rule, they tend to go unchallenged because they are left-leaning, and unfortunately, the people who are doing the debate moderations equally are left-leaning, so there's a tendency for them to push. Now, they're very careful to try and make it look like they're not doing that at all, but it doesn't mean that that's not what they're doing. It just means that they're being quite careful to not make that something that it looks like they're doing. Okay? I will acknowledge that when I watch the presidential debate, I do believe, though I have my questions, that it didn't happen on both sides about equally. It was a little bit more on the side of the president, but that there was a little bit more interruption than I would have liked to have seen. That said, part of the problem is the formats for these debates have tended to be extremely strict, which I get because they're in time constraints, right? The guys who are doing the debates, they're in time constraints and they have to fit within that 90-minute or whatever it is window. On the other hand, maybe that means you're putting too much content out there, right? Maybe that's what that means. I like the fact that in the vice presidential debate, the questions even were not given to the candidates before they actually answered. That's a good thing in my opinion, because it means that if it shows whether or not they can actually think on their feet and answer something without having prepared statements to the various things that they're going to deal with. Now, it's obvious. Let's be fair, okay? They're going to know that there are going to be certain questions that are going to be asked. They're going to know that people are going to say, well, what about this and what about that? And they're going to pick very specific, very definite things that they're going to pick on. But back to my original point. Look, here's the thing. Right now, there are beginning to be, and I'm going to name them, and I'm going to name a couple of them anyway, and I'm going to name them because I feel like it's time for people to start really taking what's happening seriously. So there's an entity called Rumble, and they're basically a YouTube replacement, if you will. And I think that there are certain ways in which they're not quite as ready for prime time as I'd like, so they have problems streaming video out to me without choppy video because of buffering issues. I'm a techie guy, so I kind of understand why it's happening, but it doesn't really matter. You can't have that. That's not appropriate. If you do that, people are going to have a hard time dealing with you. So they need to fix that on their web streaming platform. They tend to do pretty good on their on their application-based stuff. Not quite as well on their web streaming. Anyway, the other is Parler, which I think needs to get better at doing the interactive thing, but it's moving in the right direction. I think it's a good thing. I'm not sure what I think about Minds.com to this point. I like them in one sense. They seem to have also issues with the interactivity and update sort of functionality, at least on their web platforms. Okay, so I'm getting to the point where I'm basically done. I wanted to take a second, though. There was something. Oh, yes. So part of the problem with entities like Parler and Rumble is that keeping their apps in the App Store may end up being a challenge because the people who run the app stores are also liberal in their perspective. Okay, so Again, I don't want to whine, I don't want to complain, and I'm not going to do that. But I am going to tell you that I think it's really sort of unfortunate that a lot of the platforms that are currently supposed to be out there are acting as content moderators instead, and that's really not called for in anything but very extreme circumstances where highly objectionable stuff is getting out there. And it's very obvious that that's not the case from the fact that some of these guys that are being censored in sorts of odd sorts of ways are actually high ranked pages, tweets, etc. Lots of people see them and pay attention to them. Okay, I'm about half a minute longer than I really wanted to be today, so I'm going to go ahead and sign off. I hope that you have a great Thursday. Again, probably tomorrow, which will be the 9th of October, and Friday I'll get a chance to do another video, and hopefully we will see you then. I hope you're having a good day. I hope you have a good day to tomorrow and through the rest of the week. And again, we will hopefully see you tomorrow, and have a great day. Thanks for watching this video. Remember that you can like the video on YouTube, and you can give me a rumble on Rumble if you want to do that. Of course, you can also subscribe to my channel on both YouTube and Rumble. The channel would be Kurt's Religion and Politics. If you want to see more of my content, you can go to various places. The first of those places would be my blog. That's blogs.kpschubert.com. blogs.kpschubert.com. If you want to follow me on Twitter, Parler or Minds.com, you can look for my handle. I am at kpschubert. That is at kpschubert. You can also see my Facebook page. That also is Kurt's Religion and Politics. I have obviously a YouTube and a Rumble account. My channels on those accounts, pages, channels, whatever you want to call them, is Kurt's Religion and Politics. I have also, if you want to support me, a Patreon account. I am Kurt's Religion and Politics there. Thank you for looking at my stuff. Remember, you can subscribe. Remember, you can click notifications on the YouTube to make sure you're notified for new content. Again, thanks for coming to visit my channel. Thanks for watching this video, and you have a great day.